Hey everyone, it's Dr. Mel here, and I have an exciting opportunity for you. I'm looking for 2 interns who would love to share your expertise in exchange for a scholarship to my Entrepreneur Academy. So if you've ever thought about starting your own educational consultancy, but you're just not quite sure exactly what you would do, I can help you with that. That's what you're going to learn in my Entrepreneur Academy. I'll help you figure out exactly where your interests, your purpose, your passions, your skills, all of your experiences, all of your expertise, where those align to be the perfect educational consultancy for you. So if you have some mad skills in social media marketing or email marketing or anything at all that you could help me in my business, then hit me up. I'm doing much of the work myself at this moment, and I could really use the help. And I know that there are some really creative educators out there who would love to exchange your services in order to learn how to start your own educational consultancy. I'm going to drop a link in the show notes. All you have to do is click on it, give me your name and email, and I will reach out to you with more information. Welcome back to Empowered Educator. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort. And in today's conversation, I sit down with Shakira Releford, an associate professor and a nonprofit executive. And we talk about the crucial intersection of social emotional learning, SEL, and special education leadership. Shakira is an advocate for those underrepresented educators, and she shares her journey and her expertise on how SEL plays a pivotal role in supporting students with special needs. And she shared a little bit about what that looks like on the other side. Shakira had some really good energy and really helped me have more energy during our conversation, and it was a real treat. So let's get started. Hi, friend. Are you ready to move into a leadership position? Do you have interests and ambitions that you want to pursue, but feel like you don't know how to take that next step? Maybe you want to start your own coaching or consulting agency. I'm Mel, and I help educators define their career path through correct mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for your career transition. I will show you how to level up your leadership skills, share your expertise in a new way, create impact on a larger scale, and put your leadership in motion. As an educator for over 20 years, I started to feel underused and like I had more to give. I knew when the time had come for me to leave the classroom and affect change on a larger level. Now, I'm ready to help you determine where your talents and skills mesh with your passions and interests. Put your leadership in motion and move into that next phase of your educational career journey. Let me help you define your career path by having the right mindset, knowing your options, and getting prepared for that next leadership position. So power up and put your leadership in motion. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mel Vandevort, and today I have a guest with me. I have Shakira Releford. She is from Indiana, and she's going to talk to us today a little bit about SEL. She's going to first start with her journey in education, and then she's going to talk to us about SEL. And I'm super excited to have you on, Shakira. So welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a good episode. I feel like it.
I think it's going to be great.
It's going to be a good conversation.
Yes, I love your energy already. You are definitely making me more inspired and have a little bit more energy myself this morning. So introduce yourself and then we'll just get started. But let's start with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what is there not to say. Let's just put it that way. So I am currently I'm an associate professor at Ivy Tech Community College with the dual credit program with Indiana University and some of the other surrounding high schools. So I'm teaching psychology and interpersonal communications. Very, very fun. So I'm setting this up because the journey leading to this point, had I known then what I know now, was preparing me for this moment. And so as an associate professor, right? Like that's my 9 to 5 day job, if you will, right? I also am a nonprofit executive director, and focusing on special education and social emotional learning, really social emotional learning curricula for special education students and learners as a form of an integration, not just like something we talk about, right? Like
Right.
making it a part of a lifestyle, a part of curricula, a part of
Yes.
advocacy, a part of all the things that we know needs to be there, but not readily available, right?
A lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. But before then, oh my gosh, I think from as early as 21 when I was, nope, that's a lie. As early as 19, because when I started college, my very first job in college, I was working at a Montessori as a assistant teacher there, and then graduated into addiction services and facilitating small groups and support groups, and then moved into becoming an education director at a nonprofit where all we did was basically sexual risk avoidance education and working directly with schools and teachers and, principals and all the things district wide to be able to implement a optimal health education option, right? And it was research done with the CDC. That was so cool. That was the coolest thing I think I've ever done. And now moving into this role and being the facilitator, if you will, to help soon to be up and coming change leaders be able to think critically and then take action and make moves. So either way, I say all that to say, I'm definitely a multifaceted entrepreneur. I mean, I've been in business since I was 16. Okay.
Right.
Doing something, but not realizing, and I don't think as a child, education definitely was not my first choice, but being creative in education seemed to have always been something that's been lingering. And so I've just kind of ran with that and just saw where it got me, and it got me to where I am. And I'm so glad I'm stuck here. I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, finally I can breathe. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to coast. I'm going to ride this wave until retirement. And,
yes,
we'll keep going and see what happens along the journey. But yeah.
Yes. And for those of you who are audio only, she did air quotes for retirement.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of probably where I'm at. Like, you do the air quotes for retirement because once you're an educator for life. There may not be a retirement. You may not do a typical job like everyone else where you get up and go to school every day or go into the office, depending on what the job is. But you're definitely an educator for your life once you become one. So
yes.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
That sounds like an exciting journey that you've been on for sure. You've got a lot of things in your background and we kind of settled on all of those things that you have in your background. We kind of settled on the SEL part of it, but you kind of tied that together with the special education. So let's talk about our main message for today. And I'm just going to let you take the lead and go where you want to go with that. And I'm going to follow up. And just remember, we're talking leadership and the district leadership or the building leadership's responsibility in SEL and special education.
Well, I'm going to lead with this. And I would say that I'm not going to say it's a downfall because a lot of things are beyond our control, especially when we get into the position role. Like when you're in the classroom as an educator, as a teacher, right? Like you're seeing things from a very different lens because you're the foot soldier. You're the Marine on the front line with the kids, and the kids are actually is the army and the enemy at the same time, right? If you know how that goes.
Right.
But then when you come out of that and you step out of the classroom and you jump into something that's a little bit more, if you will, upscale in the sense of the direction or trajectory of progression, right? So now you're not just a teacher, you become maybe the consultant, educational consultant, or the advocate, the principal, whatever the case may be, assistant principal, facilitator, coordinator. Schools have a lot of different positions. Outside of the classroom, right? You lose sight of that perspective that you had being the foot soldier. I think we become very passionate in the first 1 to 3 years. And then after that, once we have graduated to that status where it's like, I've got my footing together. And this happens with a lot of principals too, from my experience, from what I've seen. I've got my footing together. I'm grounded in this position, right? And your focus starts to shift from the students to staff, right? Sometimes you shift from staff to the board, right? And then, and so on and so on. And so we lose sight that every child still requires that same piece of you that you had in the classroom as now the big man or big woman on campus, right?
Right. But it looks different. Definitely,
but it looks different, right?
Because you are not maybe necessarily the frontline soldier again.
Right.
Because that's the teacher, but you are back there. You're the commander of those teachers.
Yes,
so
right.
So you need to be, like you said, focused on those teachers. You do shift your focus to the teachers, but you do need to keep those students definitely in your sights, and you need to be still visiting those classrooms, seeing what's happening and making sure that you are completely in tune with every bit of what's happening in your building and in your classrooms.
Yes, I would say at all times, but that's almost impossible, right? But check in quarterly at the very least. And so what has happened, let me just put it that way. When I moved from Indiana, at that time I was a behavioral therapist, and I was transitioning into becoming a behavior analyst. And because I just thought, I can just be a school district behavior analyst and, working in special education, like, supporting the staff, supporting the students, etc. I thought. And then I moved down to the St. Louis area, and I miss it so much, by the way. Like, miss being out there. There was a lot I learned just from observation that I was like, oh, okay, right? The more of the attitude. This is not everywhere, by the way, but it was the attitude was just like, I'm beneath that. I've grown up from this, and so that's the teacher's responsibility. Or that's whoever the resource person, that's their responsibility. That's a social worker's job, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, that may be their job, but if they're not equipped to be able to adequately provide that level of social and emotional learning and support, that was where I came in. So I come down and thinking, I'm going to just continue to be a therapist. In reality, I became the educational consultant. I became a third or fourth party coming into the school to then support the third party who's been hired there on salary to help them, because there's been a lack of support.
Yes.
A high turnover, the whole nine, right? Yeah.
Right. And what you said, yes, there's that lack of understanding or lack of knowledge of how to make sure that everything is cohesive in the building between classrooms and everywhere. And you're right. Somebody does own that job, but it's not just that person's job. It's not just that one person's job description. It's everyone in the building is responsible for social emotional learning of the students. Yeah. And there has to be some cohesiveness somewhere. And so you need to be doing team meetings, and you need to be checking into classrooms. And especially if you own that position and that job description, you still need to be making sure that you're going around and visiting and checking in and seeing where there might be a gap in what you're doing with what is really needed, and getting that feedback from the teachers and feedback from the students as well.
Right. And so transition from St. Louis out to Iowa, that's where my role as an education director came in, because I was having to, if you will, build these relationships with every district leader I could think of, including the teachers too, and saying, I understand, this is something that's necessary in the classroom. Social emotional learning is crucial to human development, child development, right? And especially if you're trying to retain or increase academic support and growth and all the other things. So knowing that it's not just teaching coping skills and getting some ideas from Pinterest, it really is its own set of skills, right? That teachers don't have the time or the capacity to take those continuing education opportunities or professional development to come in, and have to learn that on their off time when they're trying to stay afloat at this point, right? Especially when you're in October, school started in August, sometimes September, and it's not even Thanksgiving or Halloween, and we're drowning, right? Yes. Though that became a recurring thing, regardless of the school, public, private, micro school, doesn't matter. Okay. Even homeschool, systems, if you will, co-op groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just, grabbing a book. I got books and resources here, but on my desk now that it's like, okay, I can just recommend that. And then what, and so I came in to be the voice piece and say, let me train the trainer, if you will. Let me train your educators. Let me train your staff, because dealing with students who are neurodivergent or have special needs or cognitive development, differences require a different learning curve, if you will, right? It's not just little Timmy or Suzanne who's just having a bad day or having these are students who already are not set up for the best success going into the environment, or not having the same equitable access as their typical developing peers. So we
have so much trauma that we don't realize plays into Timmy's bad day or Suzanne's bad day.
Yes, right. And so it's like these kids are not just, they're not just, and I'm not saying they're not, I don't believe a child is bad. I believe that, like you were saying, because of the amount of trauma or unresolved trauma, let's just put it that way, right? What do you expect the outcome to be? Does that make sense? Like, it's like, oh, well, expelling that kid who constantly is having issues, what is that really doing for, if the trauma's at home, you're just giving them a reason to, you're just re-entering them back into that trauma. Right. Stay in school or do ISS, in school suspension, depending on what it is. Trust me, it probably doesn't deserve expulsion, right? Or for that child with special needs, they already are, maybe dealing with trauma in addition to their diagnosis. Oh my gosh, like it's complete triple, quadruple whammy. And so you do need a professional, specialized professional to come in and if nothing else, advocate or support the current staff. So my suggestion, obviously would be for all directors and leaders, is the best way I think we can help the staff is, number one, not try to be the Superman or Superwoman or superhero to save the day. Okay. You're right. Provide them with the adequate, number two, provide them with the adequate resources. If that means you need to go hire someone else who can do the job, contract them out. It's okay. Yeah. I mean, social workers can only do so much, but they're not taught the same skill set. Just because they should know it doesn't mean they do. That makes sense? Just because we have professional development days doesn't mean we become complete experts in whatever that PD day was. That's not how that works. But it's okay to contract a professional to come in, and it's actually okay to say, we don't know what to do and we need help. The help is available, right? I would say on the flip side of the fence, if any educators have a passion or want to do more, or there's some level of innovation or creativity or change that needs to happen, start in the classroom. Be the change agent within your environment. Your classroom is your Earth, your space, your Jupiter, your Mars, your Saturn, your universe. Those students are your responsibility from at least 7:30, 8 a.m. to, whenever school is out. And so you make the environment worthwhile. It will spread like wildfire, right? And so do what you can that's within your control, and the rest will work itself out.
But we definitely have to have that professional development, because when I moved here to St. Louis area, I came from rural Missouri, and it is a complete different culture down there. And what I could do and knew to do in rural small schools was completely not necessarily what would work in the city. And so I needed training. I had to have some kind of training to help me be better at what I was doing, and to help me see the things that I didn't know and show me how to do it. And so we definitely, as building leaders, as district leaders, we have to provide that. But like you said, just a one-time PD day for 3 or 4 hours is not going to solve the problem. You're right. That's a lot to absorb. You have to be able to put that into practice and then get feedback on that. So there has to be some kind of PD system that allows for the teachers to get what they need on an ongoing basis so they can implement that. And that is definitely the responsibility of the building and the district leaders at that point.
Exactly. And I would also petition the board to get on board, right?
Absolutely.
Because funding shouldn't just be yeah, Lord help. We shouldn't be gatekeeping funding just for our own agendas. And I'm not saying that they're hoarding the money, but in essence, you're limiting, right, these schools, because all of this is not free. It costs money, it costs time,
right.
And it costs resources. And I would, I'm always the person who's like, I gotta push back. I'm gonna fight.
Right.
It's like,
but there is certain money that's set aside. There's professional development money that is set aside for professional development. So bringing someone in to train your teachers is well within the scope of paying them out of the professional development fund. At least I assume it is. I have not been over the entire district budget before, but I have learned a few things when I was working through my doctorate degree. And so I know that, you can find the money if you really want to make this a priority.
That's right.
And right now, especially since COVID, this is a priority. I mean, we've got some kids that are struggling, and we try what we can. But as an adult in the post-COVID world, we're struggling as well. So we need some social emotional support on our end.
That's right. Yeah.
To be able to pass that down the line, that domino effect. And so training and that support, that professional learning is definitely something that we need to focus on.
And I loved it. Honestly, if I could go back and do it again, I would. Well, not that I can't. Now I have more flexibility now, but
right, exactly.
it's like people or some schools or principals or whatever, they don't see the importance. And I'm like, what do you mean? And meanwhile, their staff is like, help me, and so
right.
I would take, I always, what I did was doing more or less like 9 months from start to finish. I came in at the beginning of the school year and I just observed. Because I didn't want to teach. I'm not telling you what to do at all. I just want you to survive your day. Okay. And so I gave task lists, like task feedback, like do this.
Bite size.
Yeah. Check.
Feedback. Right.
And then we come back and evaluate. How is this working? How is this not working? Et cetera, et cetera. Here are some things that you can use, not just for that student, but for the whole class that no one else, the kids will not notice or pay attention to. And so, for the particular charter school that I was contracted, one of them at least, I was contracted with, the whole school took in the morale. I started with 6th grade, and then we were all the way down into the kindergarten room. It was like day and night by April, May, those were totally different kids.
Yes.
And I was like, thank you, Lord. But that also meant I was coming in 2 days a week in addition to, right, to help cover some groundwork. Because there was a lot of turnover with staff. And so, but that's just the things we have to be willing to do. The school is better now than they were 7-8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so the teachers have the support, can still use the ongoing support. And although I'm not there, it doesn't mean that they're not getting it. I left them in the hands of someone who can keep going,
right.
Keep the mission alive.
Yes.
Take the time to be more proactive.
Yes.
If you can do what you can, and I can hear some of the sucking of the teeth now where it's like, she doesn't know because she's not a principal, or she doesn't know because she's not well, I understand you and I want to link hands with you or link arms with you and say, trust me, I can fight on your behalf if you need me to, but that's something you got to want, not just for the students, but the staff too. So everyone can thrive. There should be no reason why teachers are quitting in the middle of the day in February, right? And just leaving the students to fend for themselves. It's become a wild goose chase. Mm-hmm. And what a disservice that is, because we can't take the time to we have to relearn everything that we've known about education from, let's say, the 60s to 2020, right, is now legit dissipated. And we are starting from ground zero again, because now we have over 60 or 70% of the students have IEPs, 504 plans, or just need additional emotional support. And there is, on top of academic needs. And so it's like, how do you expect me to manage all of this? And this is just in gen ed. You know, can you imagine how far off, if you will, special ed has just kind of like, whew, kind of fallen by the wayside. So yeah,
I'm not sure it's fallen by the wayside. I think when you know better, you do better. And I think we're starting to realize where there are gaps and where there are opportunities. And we're starting to figure out ways to, you know, a few years ago, social emotional or SEL was not a term that I even was super familiar with as an educator. But now I think almost every educator understands that term, knows that term in some way. So definitely. This has been a great conversation. I wish we had more time to go a little bit deeper, but unfortunately we are out of time. So give us one tip for our leaders who are either moving into a leadership position or they are new to a leadership position. Just give us one tip.
It's a two-edged sword here. So for the tip, I would say this. As a leader, the most powerful and effective leaders, right, who last and sustain in their role have the impeccable responsibility and ability to be able to lead with empathy and be able to show vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Because without the two, right, you can either be a tyrant, right, or it can, not go so well, or it could be too over the edge where you're literally missing or not, you're not in the present. And so lead with empathy in every area of your time, and be willing to be vulnerable, and that's what will help bridge a lot of gaps.
Tell my audience how they can connect with you.
You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn at my name, Shakira Releford. And I'm more on LinkedIn than I am on Facebook. And then you can always email me at any time at successwithshakira@gmail.com. And shoot me a direct message even on LinkedIn too. That'll be good.
Wonderful. And for my audience, you know that I will have all of her contact information in the show notes, so you won't have any problem finding her or connecting with Shakira. It has been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. This was good.
You are very welcome. And for the rest of you, have an amazing weekend. Take bold and perfect actions. And I will see you back here, same time, same place on Empowered Educator. Bye-bye.